Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the NJ podcast. This podcast aims to share stories, tips, and insights about achieving success while having fun. From topics ranging from personal development to business, entertainment, and sports, the podcast will have conversations with experts and people in their respective fields. The podcast will also share insights from Dr James's published and upcoming books. The tagline, which is the theme of the podcast, is "Success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal." This means that you are doing what you have always wanted to do because it is aligned with your highest values, and this is the only way you can live a truly fulfilled life. Your host, Dr James.
Hey everyone, this is NJ here, the host of the NJ podcast, and welcome back to another episode. It's 2024, new year, new me. I hope you've started doing very well with your new resolutions and the things that you want to get done. I know the New Year's resolutions are normally like this. Get rid of your old boyfriend or old girlfriend, get fit at the gym and make more money, but what a resolution I hope that you make here, which is going to be the theme of the show today, is to make sure to take care of your mind, take care of your mental health, because it's tough out there, man. This is really tough. Petrol prices are up, electricity is down, our presidents are crooks. A little bit. But thank you very much for the time to come and join us. And on the show today, our very first episode for 2024, New Year, New Me, is with the Ngcobo Dr Samke J. She's absolutely amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Of course, her bio here. It took a long time to make this interview happen, but guys, never give up. Never come through. So I'm just going to read a bit of a bio. So in 2021, she enlightened South Africa with a passion to change the negative narratives and stigma surrounding mental health. In 2022, noted medical doctor, author, philanthropist, professional speaker, Dr Samke J Ngcobo launched Vocal Mentality, a platform to host all of the incredible initiatives she leads as she continues her mission to make a difference for mental health. Vocal Mentality at www.vocalmentality.com is a single location where you can explore the many avenues and projects in which Dr. Ngcobo embarks to spread the message related to mental health, demystifying misconceptions about mental illnesses, and this platform represents various facets and expressions of her love for mental health. As a professional and medical doctor, medical doctor, not just any doctor, guys, medical doctor, living with a diagnosed bipolar disorder, she was inspired by her desire to create awareness. About an understanding about the life of someone living with a mental illness. A lack of insight made her to originally rejecting her diagnosis of bipolar disorder, the fear of how it should be perceived if people knew about her illness. We didn't get into that, and saw her in a state of vulnerability crippled her. She now understands that being open about her journey is empowering, expressing her thoughts and feelings would liberate her, hence the birth of Vocal Mentality. And she is the proud author of this beautiful book here, Reflections of Convoluted Mind, A Journey with My Mental Illness by Dr. Samke J. Ngcobo. This is an amazing book. And we'll share links of where you can find it and you can get your hands on it, because this is going to be basically the crux of the conversation we're having here today. And with that being said, Dr. Samke J Ngcobo, thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the invitation. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, I hope you also been looking forward to this. Yes, that's very great. So, big shout out to the Ngcobo Secretary for connecting us and just telling me how awesome you are. And she did mention that you've got a lot of great insights to share and that you are a world changer. So, that's a very good thing. And thank you very much for inspiring, or just reading your bio and having done research on you, on everything that you've been able to count. So, that's amazing.
Thank you so much. And it's been a journey and one I'm grateful and happy to share.
Yeah, 100%. So if you could just get us started, and who exactly is Dr. Samke J? Outside of a bio, outside of medical doctoring, outside of being an author, professional speaker, who are you? And just share with the people some of the things that make you tick.
That's quite a broad question.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think one thing that I appreciate in that question is to say that outside of all these things that I do and I've done, who am I? Because those are the sort of the bells and whistles and frills of who I am. That's not the essence of who I am only. I'm somebody who values relationship, who values connection. You'll find me engaging in a good conversation. I'm born and raised in an Anglican church.
I went to the school.
Yes, oh really? And I'm somebody who's a seeker of truth. My spiritual life is very important to me, and my relationship with God is quite important to me. I think it's kept me sane as well. And I was raised in Durban. I'm a pure Durbanite. Came to Johannesburg 10 years. Now it's 11 years ago. And I've just pursued a life for myself whereby I want to live with authenticity. I value authenticity greatly. And whenever I find spaces where I can connect in that level, that's where I am.
Yeah, well, that's good. So I want to get straight into it. So how do we diagnose a mental illness? Because in my readings, like you interact with people who say I'm suicidal or I'm depressed or I'm unhappy. Maybe they have a mental illness, but maybe it's just something's wrong with their diet, or maybe just something's wrong with what their lifestyle is like. So what is it if someone was to come to you and say, doctor, I feel like I have a mental illness? What would be your process of inquiry of that for you?
That's a very important question. If one suspects that they are struggling with mental health issues, or you suspect a loved one to be struggling with something that's possibly a diagnosed mental illness, the first step is to go to maybe your general practitioner who can refer you on to a psychiatrist. So the person who diagnoses mental illness is a psychiatrist. Also, another avenue is going via a psychologist who can then refer you on to a psychiatrist. Like discussing mental health issues is not something we look up at social media on Instagram page only, or looking at it as maybe just a magazine article, then you just say, I have depression. You may relate with someone's story, relate with someone's symptoms, but even hearing me speak about my journey, it can't be you then saying that I have bipolar disorder, I have depression. It's important for it to be diagnosed mental illness, and the person who diagnoses it, who deals with mental health disorders, is a psychiatrist, and psychologists as well deal with that as well.
Oh, okay, all right, cool. So I can't just go into TikTok.
No, they don't do that.
I must be sick in the head.
Yes, because one of the challenges that we're having is that I'll speak to somebody and say, they'll discuss their mental health issues, which is, we all, I believe, have had a mental health challenge at some point in our lives. That doesn't automatically mean that we now have a mental illness.
Okay.
So you can't automatically maybe tick boxes that you found on Google. And they'd say, I have depression. Because my next question will be, who diagnosed you? And you can't say, I've been feeling this way for 5 years or 5 months. I'll ask you, did somebody say that you have it? Or you may suspect that there's nothing wrong with that. But it needs to be diagnosed and it needs to be supported. And if you have that challenge, you need to pursue the right support. As you would, if you break your leg, if you fall painfully, and you're now limping, you won't just say, I broke my leg and leave it at that. You'll get an x-ray. You will go to an orthopedic surgeon. You'll go to a hospital casualty. So why is it that when it comes to mental health issues, we do it differently? Because that's also a mental disorder or a mental illness.
No, 100%. I think I was speaking to a friend of mine, Alec. I will drop his name because he's like a very good friend of mine. So I think it was 2019 or 2020. During COVID pandemic times, his father passed away, and then he said to me, "I'm going to the psychologist to go deal with mental health." And then I'm like, "Okay, that's good." And then he said to me, the analogy was given to him. he was saying a lot of times that you say we'll break a leg or get involved in car accidents, we'll start bleeding, and then we'll go to a doctor to go deal with that bleeding or the broken leg. So why don't we do the same thing with emotional damage? Yeah, so they said, I'm going to deal with all the emotional damage because you don't want to find yourself. You're driving and the next thing you start crying. You pull over the side of the street and then you have a mental breakdown for hours and hours, and then you wonder what's going on, but you never actually deal with it.
Absolutely. And it's exactly that. For some reason, when it comes to these issues, there's such a stigma related to it. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Sure.
There's a shame that it comes with that you're struggling with your mental illness. If you are wearing a cast, you're not going to hide that you're wearing a cast.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that you have to announce that you're seeing a psychiatrist or you're seeing a psychologist.
Yeah.
But if you've broken your leg, it is the reality that you have.
Yeah.
So if you're having mental health issues, that's the reality that you have, and you're seeking the support is a great step.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, in your story, and you say that you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So that's the thing with mental illnesses like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. We have a tendency to just use these as blanket terms, right? Well, like in my experience. So I just want you to share exactly what it is because sometimes I'll be in a good mood, then I'm in a bad mood. That's I mean, about bipolar. There's because someone who I consider have to have a person that have a lot of mood swings, and then they're moody. Does that person have bipolar disorder? They have 1 minute they're this way, and the next minute they're this way. Does that mean they're schizophrenic or bipolar? And then because people may not be educated enough on what these things actually mean, and then they'll say to a person, "You're schizophrenic," or "You've got bipolar," or "You've got whatever mental illness term is out there," and they'll misdiagnose that person. And then that person is like, something is actually wrong with me. And then the self-confidence goes down. And then they start exhibiting the behaviors of that where it's actually wrong. So can you share, in your experience, what is bipolar disorder so that we're very clear on what it actually is?
Okay, so there's different types of mental illnesses.
Okay.
And I think that is why it's so important to have conversations like the one that we're having.
Yeah.
Because education is what helps us demystify these misunderstandings.
Sure.
Because you can perpetuate something that's inappropriate, to say, misdiagnose people and say, oh, that one is bipolar, they're moody. But that's not what it is.
Yeah.
So it's a type of, it falls under the category. So there's different types of mental illnesses. There's psychotic disorders. Okay. For example, schizophrenia is a psychotic type of illness. Bipolar disorder falls somewhere in between the mood. It's one of the exists in a spectrum, and I would say. Okay. So it's a type of mood disorder. Mm-hmm. So depression is also a type of mood disorder as well. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes, or not oftentimes, over the years, it's evolved. Psychiatry and mental health education has evolved in terms of how things are defined. Yeah. But basically, to put it simply so that it doesn't become a confusing thing, it's a type of mood disorder where one displays changes in how their mood is regulated. Oh, okay. So it's a chemical imbalance. Oh, it's a lifelong illness. Oh, okay. And oftentimes when people talk about lifelong, it's not a nice thing to hear because you're saying, am I going to be on medication for the rest of my life? Yeah. But the reality is, yes, it is the reality. So the person who will then, that's why it's so important to have a relationship with a psychiatrist in terms of them diagnosing you, because you'll end up diagnosing the whole world if you're going to base it on, say, you're seeing mood changes and the diagnosis of mental illness. Yeah. So there's a certain set of criteria. There's a textbook, big textbook, called the DSM-5. The DSM-5? Oh, wow. That's when you know that this is real. Yes. So that's when, so there's certain criteria that one has to satisfy. Then one that will make one then be defined as say they have bipolar disorder. So mood changes, your thoughts can be disordered, can be increased pressured speech. Sure. There's different symptoms that one will display. Sometimes people will say that not that I'm a textbook definition of it, but I've displayed more symptoms and would say that I have the diagnosis. Okay. I've tried over the years through being in denial. Okay. Just that to avoid that reality. And also, one of the things that's a challenge is the fact that there's such a stereotype of what a mentally ill person looks like. Yeah. Which is why I'm so vocal about my journey, because people don't expect me. That's the thing. I find it so basic. Oh, yeah. It's so basic in how they portray it, and that portrayal is what perpetuates stigma. The media, television, how people talk about a mentally ill person. Yeah. And to be a medical doctor and then say, I live with this as well, was a career risk, I believe, because of how I'd be perceived by people. I remember to say I'm a medical doctor and I'm a bipolar. Yes, but I'm saying, coming forward initially. Oh, yeah. I do not know how it would. I didn't know how that would turn out or how people would react to it. Yeah. But I think at that point in my life, it was a situation where I had seen all there is to see related to my illness. I had experienced all there is to experience, and I thought speaking up is what is going to advance. It just became a sense of urgency in my life where I thought I want to speak about it. And it doesn't mean that everyone needs to speak about their illness, but at least be real with yourself, or pursuing the support, or if you have the diagnosis, to say, here's somebody who's navigating a career in mental health. Mm-hmm. Here's somebody who's a professional. Don't feel ashamed about it. You can live a normal life with this condition. You can live a normal life. Obviously, there's medication, there's different things that you need to put in place to ensure that you have the right support, the right care, and to have a good quality of life. But you can live a normal life. Yeah. Someone may ask, okay, you were not speaking about this. Your career started many years ago. Why now? When did your career start, if I may ask? 20. Oh my goodness. It's going to show how old I am. I'm not ashamed of that. I've been a doctor for over 12 years now. You've been a doctor for over 12 years? Yes. What was I doing 12 years ago? Exactly. and so you've been saying through being in this game, so you've seen quite a lot. Oh yes, I've been working in mental health care services in the Department of Psychiatry as well, and seeing people who navigate a similar journey as I am. But I say that because if I've been in this space for so many years, I haven't been speaking about it for that as long as my career. Yeah. So what sparked it is the question. And I share openly, even in my book, about having a public bipolar episode. Yeah, public bipolar episode. Yes. It was witnessed by colleagues. It was witnessed by senior people I report to. It was witnessed by people I don't know. Through a voice note. No. Voice notes. Voice notes. Okay. I was in a state of being unwell. So what happened if you're comfortable to share? What happened? What was the trigger? What was the event? What was the consequences? I was going through a very stressful period in my life. Around about that time when I had the epic one. That also in public one. But I had been very stressed, and stress plays a very significant role in being triggered in terms of your symptoms. Yeah. And then the other thing was that I was not taking my medication well at that time. I became forgetful because of the stress, and then that was a bad combination completely. Then, long story short, I was headed home. It was February 3, 2020. Yes, just before COVID. So it wasn't really. People often ask that was this episode related to COVID-19. At that time, we had not had family meetings. The status of family meeting. No, thank God no. So I went home with the grand plan to catch up with friends and family. That was the plan. But I was already not 100% well. And then I started leaving voice notes, about 10 voice notes, saying things that don't make sense, completely unwell. Who were these voice notes sent to? So I created the WhatsApp group. Oh, okay. It was in a WhatsApp group, and with colleagues were in it. Senior colleagues were in it. People who don't know me, because I started an organization, which is not an organization, but I had started the WhatsApp group as a way of communicating with people. Sure. and I changed the admins and made myself the admin so no one could remove me from the group. It was just a series of chaos. And that's when I left those voice notes. And then, unfortunately, as negativity spreads, people started to share those voice notes.
Oh, wow. So you went viral.
Yes. I don't know why. Thank God it's not happening now. But that's basically what happened.
Wow.
I was saying things that don't make sense. I remember, I don't have I have not a vague recollection. I remember the day that was happening. I was saying things that were not making sense. I was threatening. I was not, it was just a very ugly space. And being vulnerable is difficult enough for people you care about.
Sure.
But imagine being vulnerable to people who also don't know you, or people who don't know you in that capacity, or people who do not even know about my diagnosis.
Yeah.
And then they're finding this composed individual that they always see at work, being in the state of turmoil. So that's what happened. So after having that public display of vulnerability, I felt that there was nothing that I can fear, if it makes sense.
Yeah, because now it's out there. So
yes.
Like now you know.
Yeah.
Even though regardless of how it happened, now you know.
Yes, and I decided to take charge of my narrative because I actually literally had a personal conversation with myself, or God spoke to me internally, that is. It was a choice because I had cried so many nights after that. Woke up at 3 a.m. and I thought, did this happen or was this a dream? Did this happen or was this a dream? I kept waking up to that. And then I finally got to a point. Now COVID had started and lockdowns had happened. So there's a lot of time by myself.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, Samke, you can't escape yourself. On this earth, you cannot escape yourself.
That's a bar right there. You cannot escape yourself.
Yes, you can't escape yourself. So it's either you walk in shame for the rest of your life.
Sure.
No one knows your story.
Yeah.
You're always ashamed if you bump into people. You feel apologetic about it. Or you take charge. And when I took charge, the rest is history.
Sure. Oh, that's very good. Wow. Like I can only imagine. I mean, like, did people come up to you who are on the WhatsApp group? They was like, "How something? What's going on?" Yeah.
Yes, people who cared about me were concerned. They reached out. They wanted to know what's going on.
Sure.
Many people exited the group. They didn't
like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, people are like, what is going on?
Maybe someone will hack this.
And then there were obviously people who weren't being responsible. It became gossip and sharing it. So which is stigma. And I talk about that we don't realize that stigma is not just about pointing at somebody and laughing at them when they're struggling with anything, particularly mental health, as this is our topic. But stigma is perpetuating something where you sharing content of somebody being vulnerable in their health. We don't realize, I'm not going to name names, but the musician who's always seems to trend with what he says, who's sick with bipolar disorder, spraying that, knowing that the person is unwell, I believe, is a stigma. Because if you're having awareness that somebody's not in their right mind, with what intention then are you sharing that content?
Views. I want views. That's the thing. I mean, I think it's some people don't do it maliciously, but some people do it maliciously, knowing that this is content that's going to go viral, it's going to give me views, it's going to help build my profile. But at the expense of somebody else who's not well, I consider evil. That's just me. I think that's evil,
No, I absolutely agree with you. And when I had my episode, close people who work.
Why did you call it having an episode?
It is because the fact that it's not the first one I've had. I've had a series of. So I had my index presentation of my illness, which was now, oh my goodness, time flies, 2001. It's 23 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's called the index presentation, which means the first presentation with the illness.
Oh, okay.
How
does it work, by the way? Like, what happens in an index presentation?
So that's basically the first time you get diagnosed. So somebody is depressed, the first time they come in contact with mental health care services. It comes in many forms, basically. I don't know how one would present it. So one would come to their psychologist, maybe their first time in contact with them would be by an occupational therapist, might be by a psychiatrist, might be by a general practitioner, and then the support, the help comes in that way. The episode may come that index episode may something may presented suicidal. So there's many ways one can present. So that's basically the first time you present with mental illness.
Okay.
So that was my first time, and if it's not tick box. It was chaos at that time. I didn't just go to my psychologist to then say, oh, we have bipolar disorder.
Oh, yeah.
Let's refer you on to a psychiatrist. Oh my goodness, let's start medication. You live happily ever after.
Sure.
It's a journey of acceptance. It's a journey it's a journey basically.
So what happens to you mentally and emotionally where it's like, okay, I've now been professionally certified, diagnosed with this mental illness? What did that do to you? Because someone out there might have all the symptoms of it, but they're afraid to go get the certified diagnosis to say, this is what's happened. What did that do for you?
It wasn't easy. If you backtrack, I was 14.
It's not 14.
It's not. I'm 37.
37.
So that it didn't come linear. That's what I'm saying. That when you speak of episodes, it means that there's definitely an issue maybe of acceptance, and the right fit to the psychiatrist because I've had different presentations with my illness because it wasn't controlled well.
Sure.
And at that time there was not an understanding that there is now. At least now, being Ribbon Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Awareness Day, there's organizations that are more overt and outspoken about mental illness.
Sure.
But at that time, it wasn't the case. So I had displayed these symptoms of hearing voices, seeing things, and people didn't understand. So people dismissed it as I'm demon possessed. Others said I'm bewitched, you're too clever, or this or that. There were so many hypotheses for that.
Why does that make sense that people will say that you're bewitched or demon possessed?
It's not understanding people, and to this day, there's still a problem in certain parts of the country and world and Africa related to understanding mental health, mental illness, because there's a lack of education surrounding the topic.
Sure.
There's a lack of the support. Now we found that you have this diagnosis now, but not everyone has access. Only 10% of people have access to mental health care services.
Yeah.
That's dismal.
10%.
Only 10% have the access.
Have the access. Okay, yes. So there's access and be able to afford it.
There's so many issues surrounding it, basically. And for every one person, there's 100,000 psychiatrists. So for every one psychiatrist, there's 100,000 people, which speaks to the need, the ratio that is. So do you see
Y'all must be coining it.
You're medical. Yes, I'm a medical doctor in corporate wellness.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a psychiatrist, but my friends who are psychiatrists feel overburdening in the sense that there's such a high demand, waiting lists in private practice, even in government, the system is overwhelmed.
Wow.
Because of the fact that there is just not enough manpower for the need.
Sure.
More people are coming forward, but it's just so difficult to reach everybody.
Yeah, that is actually crazy. For one person, there's 100,000.
For one psychiatrist, yes,
the
ratio, yes.
That's a lot. That is really a lot. So after you're diagnosed, you had the index presentation. What was the journey going? I want to backtrack between you having the WhatsApp episode.
Yes.
I want to backtrack from there. So you had the index presentation.
Yes.
And then you had to go through the process of accepting.
Yes.
What was the other major event that shaped your journey towards coming out and saying, I don't know if there's a proper term.
No, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
And the key word there in your question is journey.
Yeah.
It was a journey. So it took many episodes denying it. Yes. Many hospital admissions. I wasn't admitted once to the hospital.
So what warrants a hospital admission?
If you're a danger to yourself, if you're a danger to other people, if you volunteer that you're seeking the support,
Sure.
then you will need an admission. But mainly, so there's different types of admissions. You could be a voluntary mental health care, voluntary admission.
Yeah.
Where, for example, if I'm not feeling well currently, as an example, and like I'm saying, you're talking access as well. So it's a deeper question. I don't want us to go on another tangent. But if I come forward and my former psychiatrist that I'm not doing too well, I'd like to, get the right support, get mental health care support in hospital support. That will make me a voluntary mental health care user or admission. Then you have an assisted person.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you are struggling, you're a danger to yourself, or you might be a danger to other people, but you're agreeable to being admitted. So your wife could take you to the hospital.
Sure.
Then there's somebody who is an involuntary voluntary admission, an involuntary admission. So you may find that somebody is out of control on the streets and or at home breaking windows. They don't want to go to the hospital, but they need to go to the hospital because it's a problem. They're a danger to themselves.
Yeah.
Or somebody who's suicidal is posing a danger to themselves.
Sure.
Or you're a danger to other people, as I was saying about the person breaking windows. So that person would be an involuntary admission.
Yeah.
Somebody who's suicidal might themselves see that they need the support.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be involuntary, but they may fall under that category if they're refusing an admission.
Sure.
So those are the different categories of admissions. You asked me about my journey of acceptance or getting to a point where I did not know what was happening to me, to a point where now I'm speaking openly about it.
Yeah.
It took several admissions to hospital. It took denial. It took becoming sick and tired of always running around in circles.
Yeah.
And it also took, one of the most important things is getting the right fit of a psychiatrist who would listen to what I have to say, who gave me the right combination of medication. Right combination of medication, right explanation. Yes, intellectually, I navigated this journey from the age of 14, so I was aware that this is happening.
Yeah.
But the understanding, going beyond intellect, just to say, let's sit down. What is happening, doctor? Let's take me from being the doctor myself.
Yeah.
But let's talk to you at a level of saying you're a patient needing support.
Yeah.
So she explained to me at a level that I could understand that this is what happens to you when you're not well.
Yeah.
And this was in 2017.
2017.
So I only accepted my illness 16 to 17 years later after being diagnosed.
Wow.
So it was a revolving door, always being admitted now and again.
That's a long time.
Medical school is very difficult.
Yeah.
Those are the times when annually, twice a year, I'm in hospital. It was affecting me, and it wasn't because of the academics. It was just a stressful period in my life.
That's super smart. Academics were not a problem.
No, it wasn't easy. Medical school is not easy. No.
Yeah.
Medical school is not easy in itself. It comes with its own pressures, but I'm just saying that it wasn't that was perpetuating the illness. It was just a stressful period in my life.
Yeah.
A lot going on, and it would trigger my illness as well. I didn't have the safety net of taking my medication.
Okay.
Side effects. I gained 30 kilos at some point in a space of 4 months.
That's a whole human.
Yes. So I now have the right fit. I've had my moments.
Yeah.
It hasn't been linear. Like I'm saying, I accepted in 2017, but as I speak, 2020, I still had an episode.
Sure.
So my psychiatrist always underlines and says it is a journey.
Yeah.
And I want to say that to people who navigate mental illness, to be kind to themselves.
Yeah.
It is a journey.
Yeah, to be kind to themselves. I think that's a hard thing for people to do, to be kind to themselves. Because, from what I've listened and what I've read and what I've researched, if someone is facing something like this, that's a stigma. Because, as you said, there's a stigma. It's not socially acceptable to be told you've got a mental illness, right? They'll be like, what is wrong with me? I'm less valuable as a human. People are not going to like me, and start having all these negative thoughts. So what do you say to a person who's going through that line of thinking to say, I don't think people are going to accept me for whatever it is that I'm struggling with?
And the reality is that as well, it can, if one is not accepting it, it has implications on your relationships with friends, family, partners, and then it becomes a point of frustration for your loved ones. Because maybe they can see that you have the challenge, but you don't accept it. So there's so many layered issues related to it.
So how do you say to someone who's an involuntary, I don't know what the term is.
Involuntary admission of mental health care user.
Yeah, there we go. The person's involuntary mental health admission.
Involuntary admission, basically.
Involuntary admission.
How do we get them to the hospital?
How do we get them to admit? Because I would see it as being similar to having an addiction of some sort. Because those people who know they've got an addiction, and those people who are in denial about having the addiction. So then now we just move to the realm of mental health. So how do you get someone who's involuntary, who doesn't want to admit that maybe I've got this?
It is a complex, challenging journey.
You can't just put a gun to their head and say, hey, you want to go?
You can't force someone to accept. You can't force somebody to seek help.
Sure.
Because say you get them admitted to the hospital and they get given the medication, they get discharged, and they still haven't accepted it. It's still a challenge because you can't supervise them to 24/7.
No.
So it's a very complex and challenging area or space, basically, because you could be in and out of hospital for the longest time. I'm an example of that. I was not accepting because I would see people in the hospital that I felt don't look like me, don't resemble me, in the sense that it was them versus me.
Sure.
And I struggled with that.
Yeah.
And to get to a point where I was like, this is disruptive.
Yeah.
Being in hospital all the time means there's something to it. And I always get that desperate question from loved ones of people who ask me, how did, they sort of want to bring me forward to their loved one and be like, please,
this person.
Get it to them. And it's a challenging thing because it's not an immediate thing. It's a process. Might take a day, might take a week, might take a year. It's not an immediate thing, and I don't have an answer to that.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
So I don't have a 10-step. But psychoeducation is so important for the loved ones, for the person. You do your best. You try not to give up on the person.
But even the word psychoeducation's got if you hear the word psycho.
Okay, maybe use the word psycho out and say education. It's just to say, so when you say psychoeducation, it's about any topic. It's not saying you are psychotic.
Yeah, because where I'm coming from is that again, it's the whole stigma to if someone was to insult someone saying you're a psych.
No, it's not even meant that way because the work that I do currently relates to psychoeducation to corporates about mental health, mental illness, mental wellness. The work vocal mentality, one of the arms of what I do relates to psychoeducation. And it's not about saying your cycle, so I'm educating you.
No, that's good because I'm a big Batman fan, right? The character Batman. I'm a huge fan. And then he's got this nemesis that's called the Joker.
Okay.
So I don't know how I would diagnose him psychotically. He just causes chaos. He kills people. He robs banks. He causes a lot of chaos. And it could be diagnosed as a mental illness, but there's no reasoning behind what he does. One of the versions of the character, there's no reasoning behind what he does. Because one other character would be like, I'm causing havoc in the city because I'm sending a message to say you guys are all hypocrites, and one wants to make the poor rich, like equalize the whole financial gap, the economic scale. He comes along and says he's causing chaos simply because of the fact he's causing chaos. Well, there's some people who've got a psycho diagnosis or an issue where there is no reasoning behind what they're doing, other than the fact that that's what they want to do.
Yes, there are people, and those people would probably be in the forensic units. Because that relates to personality disorder, and social. Yeah. They might be have an antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah.
There might be people who, in the state that you're doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Are you aware?
Yeah.
Are you mentally at all doing it?
Yeah.
Or are you intentionally just being inverted commas evil, for lack of a better word?
Yeah.
You meaning you're in your right mental state.
Yeah.
So you're doing something that's wrong and highly inappropriate.
Yeah.
But it's not that you are in a psychotic state of illness. But it does excuse the behavior.
It does excuse it.
So that would put you maybe in a forensic unit.
Forensic unit. Well, that's that. When you say forensic, I feel it's like a big word to use because there are some people that you can say, okay, Dr. Samke has got bipolar, or someone has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. But then in your case, outside of forensic, the people who are just evil, just like acting crazy, just because of the fact that they're acting crazy.
I do believe that there's a presence of evil.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering your question.
So the question I'm asking is, are there people that you've, in your experience, come across who exhibit, I don't know, what psychopathic tendencies?
Yes.
But they're hiding behind that to justify their evil behavior.
That's why we need very good forensic psychiatrists, which they are. Because those are the people that can tell that is this person doing this in a state of illness when they are unwell?
Okay.
Or is, when I speak about the forensic unit, the assessments are so intense, they are so thorough. To see when this person was doing whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
So, people always get afraid. I also used to get afraid before I started, working in mental health care services. When you hear on the radio, somebody said something really, really bad, and then they're going for assessment, then you're thinking they can hide behind that.
Yeah.
But it's such a thorough assessment that for the forensic psychiatrist to say that the person was unwell when they did that, it doesn't mean that if they declared in that way, it then makes them go home and carry their happy life.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. That's not how it works.
Isn't? Okay. All right. So, at what point would a person have to be booked into a mental institution for a long time? Because some of the interactions and social media, pop culture references of people dealing with mental health issues, and you see this white padded room, they're straight jackets, and they declare that they're minister themselves into a society. I don't know how in reality that.
It's not. We just quickly put it. Very quickly say it doesn't look like. But it varies. If the person's symptoms of mental illness, like like I mentioned to you, the different types of admissions. If voluntary, assisted, involuntary. Then I mentioned if the person's symptoms aren't settling, and the person remains a danger to themselves and other people. I don't want to say release them to society, but all I'm saying is to say they wouldn't then be out of the hospital setting until they are safe to themselves.
Yeah.
Then there's people who might not be well 100%.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean they're required to be admitted. So they might be in a placement facility, for example, where there's long-term care. There's different kinds of care. I think it's a very unexplored area of health. But it's a known reality that mental health care services are very under resourced in our country, under prioritized.
Yeah, I get that. I get that sense. So, what advice would you give a family member, someone who's got a family member who's been having these episodes, and is also sort of like involuntary? I know you don't have like kids that check this, like do this, but at an emotional level, just giving you that sort of level of comfort to say there is a way that you can help your loved one who's dealing with whatever mental illness.
One of the biggest things I would say as a take home in that regard is to say your own mental health matters as well. I say that because sometimes you get so consumed in this process of the next person, the loved one.
Yeah.
And it drains you. So this is you, this is the loved one, and you're so consumed in their process and compromise your own mental health.
Yeah.
The term where people say supporting the supporter.
Yeah.
It's so critical to also take note of your own mental health.
Yeah.
Compassion.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to say. It'll feel like I'm an outsider looking in to say compassion, patience. When you say, but it's been 15 admissions to hospital, it's been 20 years of this process. What do you mean I must be patient?
Yeah.
I don't know when that moment of reckoning will be where the person finally makes a turnaround, if they do.
Sure.
But don't leave yourself behind in that process where your quality of life is now it's different.
Yeah, because two people who have now got a mental illness is not going to be able to help people out.
So I would say that we can't control the other person's reality.
Yeah.
But it's just saying your care, your well-being is important. And in an ideal world, having family meetings with psychiatrists, psychologists, finding ways to support the whole family unit. Because the mental illness, one thing I learned in my illness is one of the things that was my turnaround was to realize that this is not about me only. This impacts my loved ones.
Yeah.
It impacts my family when I become sick. It's not about me only. It's not about me being in hospital and then being discharged. It affects the people around me. So I need to be cognizant of that it's not about me only.
Yes, and it's not just about you as well. Yeah, because it's very tough seeing people suffer because their loved ones suffer. To me, I've had friends and colleagues who had their brother or their sister addicted to drugs. And that is high. I think they owe money, people are coming after them, and what they're willing to admit is how it's actually damaging themselves mentally as well. So, like in the work that you do.
Like what you're hearing so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe now button. Follow on YouTube, Instagram, and other platforms listed. Also, check out the website for more information. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for the support. Now back to the show.
What has been the most extreme case that you've seen? Not personally, but you say you do a lot of work with corporates and all this. What are some of the most extreme cases that you've seen? How was that dealt with, or is that being dealt with?
I've seen a lot of extreme. Not necessarily in the corporate space.
Yeah.
Because it's a different kind of consulting, but in the hospital settings where I've heard a lot of things in terms of what has happened with a person in the ill state has maybe done while they were not well.
Yeah.
You could harm people because you're not well at that point in time.
Yeah.
Breaking property. I think one of the challenging parts of the work that I've done over the years in terms of when I was a registrar.
Yeah.
I think I struggled a lot when I was in forensic units.
Oh.
Not struggle, but it was just difficult to take in the things that have been, that have happened in families affected by somebody who's unwell.
Yeah.
So I'd say the forensic aspect of it has been the challenging one.
Is okay. All right. Cool. So then, with men, right? We suffer a lot, and the stories were untold. This is not focused on women. The whole GBV thing, men on trash, all these men are being slandered, going through a really tough time. And one of the statements out there is that men are not supposed to feel this. Men are not supposed to cry. Men are not supposed to go through emotionally. Men are supposed to go strong. What do you, as a medical practitioner, have to say about that time spirit first?
We need to change the narrative.
Yeah.
We need to change the stereotyping of girls and boys and at a young age.
Yeah.
Foundationally.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just start with men. or I don't know, 20, 25.
Yeah, but then so.
But you're socialized to react in a certain way to situations.
Yeah.
You're socialized to react in a certain way emotionally.
Yeah.
And from a young age, if a child is feeling like they want to cry, and how they enabled to express their emotions needs to be nurtured at a young age.
Yeah.
So it doesn't start when they're now in an office or job or wherever they're working, that you tell them how to respond to people and to stresses. I believe that that's a very, not late, but it's quite at an advanced stage. It needs to be done at foundationally preschool.
Yeah, preschool.
When there's a conflict situation, there's bullying, for example. How do you tell your child who's being bullied or is the bully to respond to that?
Yeah.
I think those things start at a very young age and then people grow up to that. So I think it comes involving parents and all of that.
Yeah, at a very young age. And then from your perspective, what males, not to name names, but like in terms of generalities, what issues have you seen men both with from a psycho perspective that are most common from a male perspective? And if you can answer that.
You mean the presentations, what illnesses they
the presentation. So what do men...
So one of the things that they, what is a challenge is, that suppressed anger.
Oh, yeah.
And men and women can both put into depression.
Yeah.
But how does it come express?
Yeah.
How do you pick up that this person, this male, this gentleman is depressed? Might be different to how you pick up maybe how a woman is.
Yeah.
It's not an umbrella term to say men present like this, women present like that. But how it enters, you may find that somebody who might not necessarily always aggressive, but then you find that they may become more aggressive because they're struggling with work pressures, emotional pressures, financial pressures. So, yeah.
Okay, right. That's an interesting thing. So men have got a lot of anger.
No, I'm not saying that men have a lot of anger.
Yeah.
I'm saying how they express their emotions might be different.
It might be a bit different. So, okay, so just take the things against.
I'm not making an umbrella term to say men have anger issues. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that how they get to express their emotions is not as encouraging as women get to express their emotions.
Yeah.
So if you find a man crying,
yeah,
there actually might be a difference between when someone sees a woman cry.
Yeah.
Over maybe the same issue.
Yeah.
But a man is not given that space.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have a society that evolves better and how men are encouraged to express their feelings.
Yeah. So what is one of the best ways you said men should express their feelings? How would you, if you were in charge of making sure that men are especially mentally well, what would you put in place to say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is where you're going to express your emotions. This is how we're going to help you get.
For me, I'm a huge advocate for the psychotherapy.
I
don't think enough men. And that's what I'm saying.
If you
do something,
sure.
I think we need to destigmatize what that means. What is that? What is it about? Men need to feel safe, and a safe space might not necessarily be, because to always sit, maybe say going to the bar every Friday and you're going to drink it away. That's not a solution. Sure. Conducive that's not a solution. But safe space, I don't believe that men have enough safe spaces to express their feelings.
Sure.
And I believe that psychotherapy is a safe space. So I think we need to demystify, destigmatize what psychotherapy is and what it offers.
Yeah.
All
right. So then, a question when we started working in terms, right? So what was the impetus to say, okay, I'll take it? So now we've come out I was about to say come out because let's say you come out and say, I'm bipolar, right? Diagnose, this is who I am. Dr. Samke J, medical doctor, I've gone to bipolar, you're managing on people. So then what was the impetus to start Vocal Mentality? What was the thought to say, this is why I'm starting?
It was twofold.
Yeah.
So when I had that major episode, I was booked off work for 6 months on the capacity.
That is true.
6 months. I used to judge people who get booked off for 3 weeks. Like, where are you going? I did my thing, like, as much as I'm a doctor, and I had to book people off. I never thought it was difficult. It was incredibly difficult.
6 months.
I was booked off work from March until September.
Wow.
And that was the time when I had conversations with myself, introspecting, and it was during COVID, the time when there were heavy lockdowns. So I wasn't going to work. I wasn't in the front line.
Yeah.
So I really had an opportunity to reflect.
Yeah.
Look at myself. This is when Reflections of a Convoluted Mind was written.
That's a great title.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really remember the day the title came to me.
Yeah.
So I really reflected on where to from here.
Yeah.
We had a major incident happen because I had to rehabilitate. There was impaired brain functioning, so I had to rehabilitate to get back because of the impact of the episode.
Sure.
I had to really look inside and say, where to project your life.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
What did you always want to do?
Sure.
And this is what it became.
Yeah. So then, just explain to us what Vocal Mentality does.
Vocal Mentality provides psychoeducation to schools.
Yeah.
One of my dear passions, because I was diagnosed at 14, and I've been educating young people about knowing to seek help and support.
Yeah.
It's important. I work in corporate where I educate the corporate community about mental health, mental well-being, holistic well-being. I've been working with a number of amazing companies who basically hunted me to work in their wellness strategy, be part of their wellness strategy related to...
So you contract to them or you formally formally? Okay. Formally. So let's say formally this is full time. It goes like the example.
I have scheduled days that I'm committed to with various companies.
Okay.
So one of my main clients, 4 times a week, 3 times a week it's been almost 2 years now.
Wow.
So I am working with them in a wellness strategy to improve, help employees. A passion that I never thought I had, and to be valued like that is something I appreciate a lot. To bring in recommendations to see how they can improve their employee assistance programs and so forth.
Sure.
So I'm not in the clinical field anymore.
Okay.
I've stepped down from that, and I'm just growing Vocal Mentality, mental health as well. It's a passion of mine. When I said it was twofold, I mentioned that it's twofold. The work that I do with Vocal Mentality, because I don't want people to think that Dr. Samke only deals with female issues.
Sure.
And Sisters for Mental Health is one of the things that I do.
Okay, so
my
yes. Yeah.
Well, they're separate entities.
Sure.
It's a non-profit company. Sisters for Mental Health is a non-profit company. Vocal Mentality is my company. But I want to even they say Samke.
Yeah.
To know that Jagulo can invite somebody to his podcast to talk about mental health issues, not just about women only.
Yeah. So that 100% makes sense. So you've been operating for 2 years now?
Since 2020.
Since 2020. Oh, okay. So since after the...
Yes.
Seems like... So it was 6 months in capacity. It's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah. No, it wasn't easy, but I learned to bring it.
So the question is then, what do you do for 6 months in capacity leave? So do they pay you? Do they not pay you?
Incapacity is a complex topic. I think that HR specialist would be great at explaining it thoroughly. But you do get paid by a fraction of it, not your full salary. But I don't know what terms and conditions they use, or the specifics of it, or how they get to that. And also in the terms of the career on that the person is on. I wasn't doing full. They had to cater to the fact that it was is it not 20 forms? that has to be completed. Yes. So you can't just say, oh, it's a very formal process. So someone can just like book me off work and that's it. No. It's a very complex thing. I can't just be booked off and then I start another job,
I'm sure people try.
I'm sure they try.
Yeah. Wow, 6 months. Wow. I'm still trying to get a handle on how to do that.
Yeah.
So, with reflections of a convoluted mind, how was your journey to putting this book together? Because this entire thing, from what I'm gathering in our conversation, is this massive journey, this long journey from your index presentation through to the episode, through to strong vocal mentality. Now, and whether it was take us through the journey of putting the content.
I've always wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it would be about. The key or the term that I would say, I'd say, I want to be vulnerable. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I don't have a personal life in it. That's the rule that I have. And I'll get the direct opposite of that.
Yeah.
Because to write a story, I think people need to have a level of relating with you. And if I wanted to share, I said nothing to do with my mental illness. And it became about that. So I believe the timing was appropriate for me to write it. I had really been in a space of soul searching.
Yeah.
And I decided to take those reflections, take those thoughts, it wasn't like a journal entry, but I wanted to share the journey of humanizing what mental illness is about, living with it. Outside of me being a medical doctor, just as somebody living with mental illness, what is it like? You ask me about people who have loved ones, and what do we say to them?
Yeah.
This can help.
Yeah.
To say this is the process of somebody living with mental illness.
Sure.
This is the way you can maybe support them better. Hopefully it will be enlightening for them. And the symptoms, what is it like when somebody is depressed? What is it like when somebody is suicidal?
Mm-hmm.
What is it like when somebody is psychotic? What is psychosis? Mm-hmm. What is it like? What is psychosis?
Yeah.
All these terms get thrown around in mental health that people don't understand.
Exactly.
So I talk about that and with the hope.
100%. So the thing is, suicide is a big topic, right? It's not going to say it's a big topic.
It is.
When I say big, I'm saying it's important.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have dealt with suicide and suicidal thoughts. I've had them. A lot of people have had them. How would you counsel someone going through suicidal thoughts and suicidal episodes? What is your approach there? Because
when they are suicidal, or they have in the past, like past tense, or right now someone is suicidal.
Let's break it up into two. Right now, someone is saying I'm suicidal right now.
If they are right now suicidal, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
It counts as one of the psychiatric emergencies.
Yeah.
So you take them straight to a nearest casualty in a hospital to get the support. That is what we do.
That's the first one, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So then if they've had a history of suicidal thoughts and suicidal attempts, and then now they've been fine for a period of time, and then now they relapse.
So when you say they relapse, what is happening?
They go back to having serious thoughts of suicide.
Yet again, you don't take any suicidal thoughts ideation lightly. So you act on it, basically.
Oh,
yes. Because you don't know when somebody might need it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very tough. Because some people will say I'm suicidal, but they don't know it.
But you can't take it as attention seeking because you never know when they are. And then I'm not saying take everyone to casualty, but you deal with it seriously. You don't take it like that, oh no, this one's always saying this. Sure. This one has been doing this for the past 5 years or saying this for the past 5 years. We need to act on it.
Yeah, that is a tough one. How do you tell someone was attention seeking or someone is actually...
That's why a professional would be the right person to assess that.
Yeah. So if someone is dealing with mental health issues, what would they come to you in your personal capacity?
If somebody
has got some mental health issues,
yes,
whatever the issue is,
so coming in
what would they come to you for help for? What would you be able to assist them with?
In my personal capacity?
In a professional capacity, because like this is your vocation was.
Yes.
Do you just only offer education? Would you offer counsel?
If somebody is requiring professional mental health care support, the right person is a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So the right person, those are the people that deal with mental health disorders. I'm answering your question. Right. So then you are more education. I'm psychoeducational, but I'm also, like I'm saying, I'm working in the corporate environment, so I'm working within those spaces and within for years programs, if I'm making sense. But I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not consulting people with mental disorders in a consulting room as a psychiatrist. If I'm
I get you. The reason why I'm clarifying that is because there is.
I've had people oftentimes, and I understand, people feel that they can relate with me so much and they want me to be the therapist, but I'm always really explicit in saying that I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a medical doctor. Yes, I do have work experience in the department of psychiatry. And I don't even want to volunteer and say I will refer, because how many people am I relating with? So, like, for example, I don't want to make myself like a directory of sorts and say, if you're needing a psychiatrist, if you're needing psychiatric support, contact me. Because somebody will come in a crisis and I'm not on the social media platform. So I don't want to treat myself as if I'm a directory of sorts. That makes sense. That would be a dangerous thing to do and irresponsible. So if people are struggling, reach out to your South African Depression and Anxiety group if you don't have medical aid. That kind of support. So there are helplines available for people who require mental health support, and then you'll be directed accordingly.
No, 100%. So how do we differentiate? When I say differentiate, because like you use the word spectrum, right? And in medical profession, there's different types of professions. There's a psychologist and there's a psychiatrist. I thought they were exactly the same things. I didn't know what the difference was.
No, they're not the same.
This is for the people listening. Give the clarification between what a psychologist is and what a psychiatrist is.
Psychologists and psychiatrists do work closely together. And oftentimes people just think it's interchangeable. They like I'm saying, they do work closely together. As I explained, I kept mentioning that you refer in this way and that way. Psychiatrists are medical doctors who have further specialized in psychiatry, basically. So they've studied medical school. They've done medical officer time, community service. Then they've studied a further 4 years to be a psychiatrist. Psychologists have also they are psychotherapists as well. They deal with mental, not only mental illness. You don't have to have a mental illness to see a psychologist. And they've also done their way of training. They've gotten their masters, they've gotten their honors. They provide psychotherapy. So their training is different, but like you're saying, they deal with mental health related issues. So a psychologist may refer to a psychiatrist, psychiatrist to a psychologist, or a person may be both. I see a psychologist every Tuesday of my life. I see my psychiatrist every 6 weeks of my life. Not necessarily not everyone does that necessarily at that level of frequency, but you can see both people. It doesn't mean, you see a psychologist or you see a psychiatrist. It depends on what the predominant issue is. If you don't have a mental disorder, you're not going to see a psychiatrist.
Okay, so then I don't have a mental disorder. I just get sad and I see the petrol prices go up. And that's the only thing that really impacts me. So I don't have a mental disorder. What event would rationalize me needing to see a psychiatrist?
If you're referred on by like a professional that I mentioned, say a psychologist or a doctor, that find that you have symptoms of a mental illness, then you see a psychiatrist. If you have symptoms of a mental illness or a mental disorder, or you're suspected to have a mental illness, then you see a psychiatrist.
That's a psychiatrist. And so what would a psychiatrist, in the nitty-gritties, in your perspective, what does a psychiatrist actually do? Do they give you that exercises that you need to go do? Do they prescribe medication to?
They do a combination of work. It's a combination,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
They also do provide psychotherapy.
Yeah.
They prescribe medication.
Yeah.
If you require medication, they will refer you on to an occupational therapist if you need an occupational therapist.
Yeah.
So they do a combination of work, basically.
What does an occupational therapist do?
They do assessments.
Okay.
They do vocational assessments.
Oh, okay.
They do. They work with mental health care services.
Yeah.
They have it's a variety of work. I don't know the specifics of what they do as well, like verbatim right now, but they do amazing work.
Okay, all right, cool. So then that's a psychiatrist, and then the psychologist is someone that sits and listens to it.
It's not as basic as people make it.
Yeah. They call them a shrink. I don't know where does that term shrink come from?
I don't know, but they do amazing work. It's been life-changing in my mental well-being.
Yeah. So then a psychologist would there talk you through your problems, give you recommendations. What like in your experience, what does a psychologist do?
Psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy.
Go there and find out.
Okay.
How's that?
All right, yeah. Well, also for people who don't listen.
No, people just think it's a very passive process, and it's not.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just say, try going there for yourself, maybe 2 or 3 times or 5 times.
Yeah.
And see what it's like, so that you can experience it. Because sometimes explaining from the outside doesn't make sense to other people. And they're saying, so what are they going to do for me after I leave? Are they going to give me and some people go there expecting that the psychologist is going to give them a list of to-dos or recommendations to say, okay, this is what you need to do in your life. So I may say that jokingly, and I say go there and find out, but really, in this year that we're starting out, and in exploring our mental health and well-being, make psychotherapy an option that you explore.
Yeah, 100%. So, would you recommend a psychotherapy to someone who's just not necessarily having breakdowns or episodes? Everyone.
I would say if you can afford it.
So some people.
No, especially if you have a mental disorder.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's the work of psychologists. I have the utmost respect for it.
Sure.
Because of the values brought to my life.
Yeah.
And it's not about having a mental disorder only, but looking after your mental well-being.
Yeah.
And there's different reasons for it. Maybe you may need it more at different points in your life. We may not go there every Tuesday.
Yeah.
But try it out, explore, make it something you explore and see.
Yeah. No, 100%. So in the book that you wrote, Reflections of a Congress of Mind, do you mind sharing one of the interesting stories you haven't shared and already that you put into the book? So,
I have shared.
Yeah.
I have shared, and I've shared parts of it already.
Yeah.
And I think the rest will be read.
The rest will be read.
Yes.
So where did you can people get your
on our website, vocalmentality.com?
Vocalmentality.com.
There's a link to Amazon.
Yeah.
And a link to Take a Lot.
Yeah.
But if people want personalized copies, maybe you can email me, vocalmentality.com. There's an icon of my email address.
Yeah.
And then take it from there. But vocalmentality.com has a whole range of things that I do.
Yeah.
And the book link is there as well.
Okay.
And explains my reasons for writing the book.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No. Okay. Is it available in e-version as well?
Yes, on Amazon and Kindle.
Kindle. Is it an audiobook?
No, I haven't done an audiobook as yet.
Oh, okay. Because that's one thing that might be an next question. Is people want audiobooks.
I know.
As well, I'm like, where's the audio? It's like, I don't want to read. I'm like, that's the problem. You must.
I know. I only explored that part. Yeah, the audio one I haven't done it.
You must read. So, in essence, okay. So, are you solely operating within the South African context, or are you going to move globally?
Global is the plan. So I'm excited about 2024.
Yeah.
Global is the plan. Global is the intent. Africa particularly, I want to have a greater reach within Africa.
Yeah.
Mental health education is insufficient. Not to say it's lacking.
Yeah.
but I think more can be done. I went to a conference last year in November. Yeah. And I met colleagues from different parts of Africa, different psychiatrists and psychologists, and it was incredible. It sparked that interest and desire within me that I hadn't experienced before. So yes, I want to go across the different parts of the continents, but I definitely want to go higher. Higher north, yes. Yes. The northern countries. Yes, I'd love to. Yeah. When they spoke of the need and the lack, and when they approached me, I realized that I can still do so much.
So is there a lack? Because I can understand there being a lack here in Italy because I've experienced the lack. Mm. And in Africa, I can sort of believe. But in those countries, the Nordic countries like Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, they're normally known as the happier countries. They're known as the happiest countries in the world. What mental health issues do they potentially have? Is it something that you know anything of? Or?
I'm not familiar. I don't have the statistics for that just offhand, so I'd rather not say so. People need to realize that financial stability does not equate happiness. So people may think, what? No, we wish. I know often people will say that if I just had 10 million or a million or 5, I don't know, whatever.
Life would go.
Would be smooth. But that's not reality. So mental health issues are a reality because 600 million people are suffering with depression. It's the third.
600 million people.
Wow. It's the third most debilitating. Mental health issues are the third most debilitating conditions after infectious diseases, your HIV, those kind of conditions. So it's not low. Mental health is not lower down in terms of affecting us worldwide. Oh, it's number 3 in the world.
3 in the world.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's more dire than I thought.
Yes. But that's the thing that people think it's not nice life problems. Yeah. That relate to mental health. It's not nice life problems.
So if you're rich and famous, what mental health issues could you possibly have? Because you're rich and you're famous. What more could you want?
But you remember when I spoke about chemical imbalances, that it's not related to what's in the bank balance, because you wouldn't be having suicide or depression amongst people who have that kind of vulnerable, it's not related just to finances, not related to fame and fortune. These things are biological conditions.
Oh, is it? Okay, biological. So then sometimes are they genetic? Or do you just develop
it can be a combination. There's predisposing factors, there's genetics being one of those. So it's a variety of things that can lead to mental health conditions, basically.
Okay. What is the number one cause of mental health?
I don't think there's a number one. They're very based on what the condition is.
Okay. All right.
So, for example, with bipolar disorder, genetics may be higher up.
Yeah.
Versus maybe with depression, it might be something else.
Yeah.
So schizophrenia, genetics might be higher up. With other ones, it might be something else. So depending on what the condition is, substance abuse might be a different thing.
Yeah.
So it varies. I can't say that the number one leading cause is this one thing.
No shit. Yeah. So I get you. So then, we're at the point where in the conversation where you get to interview me, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you get to interview me. You get to ask me any questions that maybe are in your mind that have popped up throughout the conversation that we had.
Okay. Why did you invite me, and why mental health is the first topic of the video?
Right. So why did I invite you? Number one, I saw Doc. Have on. Have on. She's got something to say about this. What intrigued me about your profile and the work that you do is, number one, I think your personal story and how you were introduced to me through with your friend at Ngcobo was she's an amazing person. She's a medical doctor. I'm like, medical doctor, right? and she's had this bipolar disorder, and she's dealing with it through vocal mentality. So that entire chain of events is not. It's you know what the difference between a hero and a villain is in my mind. The difference between a hero and a villain is the decision that they make with the cards that they dealt. So a hero back then, when his parents were killed when he was 9 years old. So basically, he's saying the world hurt me, so I'm going to make sure it doesn't hurt other people, right? Then a villain like the Joker, uh, like the latest movie done by Todd Phillips in 2019, society broke him to the point where he started becoming a murdering psychopath. The decision that Joker made said, the world hurt me, so I'm going to hurt everyone else. So the decision, so that's why I consider you a hero or heroine because of the decision that you made. You said, I've got this story, and I'm going to make sure it helps other people. Versus somebody says, well, this is the card that we've been dealt, so let me just cause chaos because of it. So that's how I consider you a hero because of the decision that you made. So that's why I decided let that be on my list for people that I want to start conversations with. And why mental health? It's because personally, I've struggled with it a lot. And when I told people I've struggled with mental health before, suicidal thoughts before, the question that was being given to me is like, what are you struggling with for? You've got a good living, you've got work, you've got books that you're doing, you've got to grow up in a decent household. What mental health issues would you be struggling with? So I felt misunderstood for a very long time until I just went on my own journey to understand this. And also the third book I'm writing, Father of Man, it is the most deep and introspective book I've ever written because of dealing with that issue that men are dealing with. Mental health is a big one of the factor of it. Dealing with finances and dealing with the pressure of being wanting to be a good man, not being a man, wanting to be a good man because it's protecting, to provide, and also you're not given a break as God. As a man, you're given less excuses and given less grace and less runway to make mistakes. This is one of my favorite quotes from the Godfather movie. Is the Godfather? He said, "Men can't afford to be careless. Women can, but men can't afford to be careless." What I'm taking from that is not misogyny, but what I'm taking from that is generally men or the protectors and providers and breadwinners, traditionally speaking. And if they are careless, their children and their wives, they will suffer. So I think that's the precipice for men having their mental issues. So mental health is very important, especially in today's day and age, social media and like TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, and people having this fake life out there, and they're veiling what issues they're really having. So I want to have this dialogue to say, this is what's actually happening, and this is what the actual problem is, and this is how we actually we need to deal with this as a society, as a whole. So that's why I need help. Now, the first topic I'll have of the year, and for the first, nor is it going to be the last this year because just because of that entire story. So I want the people to hear your story as well as so that they can make the decision that they can will be a hero and not a villain. Because a lot of people are taking their pain and they're inflicting on other people. I mean, if you hear stories of, let's say, if you hear stories of women who have been done wrong, they've been cheated on, right? They're like, I'm going to get into a relationship just like, but then now that you're not solving the issue, like you're broken, you've gone and fed not broken, you've been hurt, so you need to go and deal with that as well. So from a mental health perspective, if you have a mental health issue, you've been through life, people have died around you, people have stolen from you, you've gone through the most. You know, people say I've gone through the most, yeah, you've gone through the most. Then why not do the most to fix yourself and become better? And have that open dialogue to say it's okay. to have because I've got a life coach, I've got someone who plays hockey, I'm going to get myself a psychologist every 2 weeks to a month, go do those regular check-ins just to make sure that I'm like mentally balanced because life is hard. They didn't tell me this when I was 5 years old. They didn't tell me this when I was 5 years old. Like, they're like, no, you'll find out for yourself. You'll find out for yourself. No, I don't want to find out for myself. Tell me that life is hard. So when I find out that life was hard, it got really difficult. Then I was like, okay, so how do you actually deal with it? Because life being hard is not going to go away. Life being expensive is not going to go away. People looking up to you is not going to go away. So manage it. Like you said, it's a journey. And it ends when you die. Possibly.
Oh, absolutely.
That's when you die. Like someone said to me, people who don't have problems are in the cemetery. So you don't even know what you're doing in the afterlife. So you don't even know that. So I think mental health is very important because I've had a number of not mental breakdowns. That's the thing, nervous breakdowns. Normally, I can't work anymore. I can't walk anywhere. I'm working on some going to sleep for the whole day, or playing video games for the whole day. But even then, that gives me mental health issue because I lose in my games, and then that doesn't help. So I think that's why I wanted you on so I can learn from you because wisdom is learning from other people's journeys. And I don't want to go through what you went through. I can just read your book and listen to your conversation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I wanted you on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have no other questions.
You are forced to ask one more question.
Okay, I'm forced to ask one question.
Yes.
Okay, what was the standout light bulb moment in our conversation? In everything we spoke about, what was the light bulb or the standout epiphany moment?
The epiphany moment for me was the 6 months. 6 months. I've never done my life. The standout for me again. You're really going through what I call is the hero's journey. The standout moment was you being open to say, this is the episode that happened. This was the scale of the episode. This wasn't just maybe. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't staged. It wasn't done between 5 people who are understanding, who know you. This is as public as it gets within your context. And again, not playing. This serious, senior executives, the group that you created, many voice notes to the point where you couldn't hide from yourself anymore. Like one of the biggest gems you shared was you can't escape yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I shouldn't say that. Because I want to escape myself. I kind of go to New York and look in the mirror and still lay our hands. The fact that you can't escape yourself. So if you can't escape yourself, you have to face yourself. So then I'm like, now I change what I'm in front of me. Now I need to go and write in my journal and date myself because Dr. Samke J came onto my show. You can't escape yourself. Yeah. So that was the light bulb moment to say that this is what happened. Okay. I went through this episode. Some people call it psychotic or whatever the case is. And then you had the liberty of having 6 months to go and figure this out. And then you made the Batman decision.
I get your terminology.
Not jumping out, not wearing tights or that's like making the Batman decision to say, I'm going to do the best that I can to make sure other people don't get hurt. So vocal mentality came out of that. It's just like one of the first big keynotes I delivered was around the topic that daily turns life around from baseball and the story of Jim Rohn. So what that is it's also part of what the Joker does as well. So it's like twofold. There's a statement that says all it takes is one bad day to change your life. You just need that one that everyone has. You can have a series of those days, but everyone knows that one day that really changed their life. everyone knows, for example, if someone lost their father in a car accident, that one day shaped their life. Or if someone got fired or retrenched, or South Africa can't just fire people, you worked out or whatever it is, that changed their life. Or if someone got raped, or someone almost got murdered, that thing changed their life. That one day that changed their life. So then I talk about the day that changed your life around. And now when that day happens, you can make a decision. And that decision is, this is where my life is going to change, and it has to change. Or you could make the other decision to say, this is how life is going to be. So for me, I had multiple things that turned my life around. Like, the first one I talk about is when I was 12, I was just like, got the 22% for maths. Don't ask me what happened. 22% for maths. It's like the 32% you need to pass that day. So I was literally playing around. So my dad took me on a drive. I thought he was going to murder me. Like the issue, but took me on a drive in Davidson, Benoni, and it was dark at night. Like, he wasn't saying anything. I'm just going to open you here somewhere. And he said, you make it in life not because you're handsome, but because you work hard. So then from that moment, I made a decision that I'm going to do my best to work as hard as possible. So then the day that turned your life around, I don't know if it was the index presentation, but for me, what I got in the conversation is the day that you turned your life around was that episode. It was like, good job. Yeah, so I think that's the major gem that I caused from, and also the bravery that it takes to turn, like, who did I hear this from? Some of those cliche Christian sayings. God can those preachers. God can take your mess and turn it into a message, But like, I think we took whatever convolution and made it to a message that people are going to take now going forward, which is, I think, is very inspiring,
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
So that is the conclusion of our conversation with Dr. Samke. This is Dr. J.
Samke J.
What does the J stand for? Joan. Like J-O-A-N.
Yes.
Jonovan.
Yes.
Okay, Jonovan. Okay, great. So, Dr. Samke J. Ngcobo, and she is a medical doctor and a psycho-educational professional. And she's changing the world. She's coming for all of the biggest nations in the world. She's coming for you. She's helping you. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. We've had a great conversation here about mental health, her journey. I consider her a hero. I know other people should consider her a hero as well. Or heroine, whatever the term is. I'll just use hero just to have you out there. And thank you very much for your story and being brave about it and being speak about it. So now I can officially tell people that you're my friend now. Officially my friend. And so thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. And don't mind some of the background. It was raining. And now it's not raining anymore, which is beautiful. Thank you very much for joining us for the first podcast of 2024 on the NJ podcast. Remember, the theme of the podcast is success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That means you're going after what you always want to go after because it's aligned with your highest values. And that is the only way for you to have a truly fulfilled and successful life. And until the next episode, we'll see you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. There we go. That was really good too. I enjoyed that.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed that a lot.
Thank you for joining us on this episode on the NJ Podcast. Make sure to visit the website, the njpodcast.captivateair.fm, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, all the other podcast platforms, or via RSS so you never miss a show. You can also find the video content on the YouTube channel and Instagram page. That will be Ngcobo James on YouTube and ngcobo.j.ngosi for Instagram. Please subscribe and follow on those platforms as well. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on the podcast platforms, or if you'd like to tell a friend about the show, that will help us out too. If you'd like more information about published or upcoming books, visit www.njablojames.com for more information. Please reach out if you'd like to share what you would like to hear and which guests should be invited to the show. And remember, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, which means that you are doing what you have always wanted to do because it is aligned with your highest values, and this is the only way you can live a truly fulfilled life. Now just chill until the next episode.